Hello, friends. Host Eric here. Going to talk tonight on Talking with Famous People about several things. Number one, Tiananmen Square. So, my student Jeffrey, he's been assigned a paper by his history teacher about Tiananmen Square and been given a bibliography that a previous student who wrote a good paper on the subject had used. They're good according to this teacher. And he supposedly needs to submit a thesis of some sort, but or not. I'm not exactly sure. It's a weird, complicated situation. But the thesis I recommended was the takeaway from Tiananmen Square is that critically important are intellectual freedoms: the freedom of conscience, freedom of academic autonomy, freedom to challenge and question publicly the public statements of others, and for those questions to be evaluated objectively and openly and fairly by everybody, not to be suppressed unfairly by use of force. So that's the obvious takeaway from Tiananmen Square. And I was shocked and appalled to discover that apparently a paper about Tiananmen Square that actually discusses the only meaningful takeaway from Tiananmen Square is too controversial, at least in Jeff's mom's eyes. Now, of course, all of this stuff is going through Jeff's mom, who's an ESTJ and NI-polar and thinks that the necessary thing to do with school is to interface all the time, which is to say, we're going to adjust to what the teacher wants exactly, and that's how you succeed. It had nothing to do with actually being good at something, learning something. It's always figure out what the teacher wants and do that. Typicality, teaching ENTPs and INTPs. There's some typicalities associated with this that I should mention. Number one, as I was telling Jeffrey at the end of this, you cannot win this way, Jeffrey. You will never. Jeffrey's mom wants to know, why is it that these teachers seem to hate Jeffrey sometimes, that Jeffrey's not doing anything? Because he's smarter than they are. He's smarter and more intellectually robust. He can argue more successfully and more deeply about whatever the thing is they're teaching about, unless it's something like math or something actual where you start with mya, that you teach mya, and you get a predicted expected result at the end. So I can teach all of grammar, English grammar, to somebody, and I can do an assessment to check to see that they have in fact learned it all. And the only real barrier to me being able to do that is the student's willingness and interest in learning it. But if somebody seeks me out and wants to learn it and it isn't like mentally retarded or something, then I can definitely teach it to them. It doesn't matter what their cognitive function stack is. It takes longer if they are TI polar than it would in some other ways, but I have a way of teaching it that engages both TE and TI. I do sentence diagramming. And I also do ordinals, ordinated stepped question asking that's scripted out so that TE people don't have to TI it themselves. So, I can teach anybody grammar, and I can teach it, the whole thing of it, and I can go from knowing at the beginning that they don't know it, and go at the end that they do know it, and there's not going to be any real disputing that what I've taught them is a real thing, that it's correct, and that it's determinate on the matter. There will be disputing about whether grammar matters and things like that, but there's not going to be any dispute that, in fact, what I've described is technically correct, right? So, the thing is, if you're not teaching something like that, if you're teaching something like this book that I'm reading for Jeffrey, along with Jeffrey for class quiz, and you're having people write papers on that, or you're teaching history or something, then you're accustomed as a teacher, and until somebody's required otherwise of you, to include a fair amount of subjectivity in your grading, which is to say, how good is this essay is not the same kind of question as how many did you get wrong on this test. And so when they come across somebody who they subjectively don't agree with or approve of or like the approach they're taking, maybe even politically, then it's going to impact their grading. And then if you try to pin them down, well, can you give me an actionable definition of your criterion here? In other words, can you operationalize your feedback instead of just telling me, well, try doing this more like this, or blah, blah, blah. Operationalize it. If you do meow, then you are guaranteed to get an A. If you do meow, 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 right? Of course, you can't really teach writing or anything like that in that way. You have to have it be more holistic and subjective. Instead, they try to foolishly split the baby in half. So now Jeffrey is supposed to write a paper on Tiananmen Square, but the teacher has disallowed him any actual enthusiastic engagement with the topic, of any topic, because he's not really let him choose his own topic. He's not let him do Nazis on meth, which is what he wanted to do. And so, I mean, the thing is, maybe for a majority of the student population, that doesn't matter, because they aren't as intellectually robust as ENTPs are. But it matters a lot to us. The process of following through on something that's not our own idea, that's not interesting to us, that's not ideationally welcoming to our free and open intuiting, is torture. It's torture. And I don't doubt the same thing is true for INTPs. So I don't want to limit it just to ENTPs. Now, the last thing I want to talk about in this video is a demonstration of why extroverted intuition, my dominant function, is absolutely terrible, and how to fix it, okay? I'll do both things. First of all, extroverted intuition is not usually a good thing if you notice it in art, okay? It may be behind it, but if you notice it, then the person who was using it didn't edit enough. This is a bogey has to read. I'm going to read now this first page out loud, plus this first little bit of the top line here. And then I'm going to tell you how it should be. Here's what it says. May in Ayamimon is a hot brooding month. The days are long and humid. The river shrinks, and black crows gorge on bright mangoes in still dust-green trees. Red bananas ripen. Jackfruits burst. Dissolute bluebottles hum vacuously in the fruity air. Then they sun themselves against clear window panes and die, fatly baffled in the sun. The nights are clear, but suffused with sloth and sullen expectation. But by early June, the southwest monsoon breaks, and there are 3 months of wind and water, with short spells of sharp, glittering sunshine that thrilled children snatch to play with. The countryside turns an immodest green. Boundaries blur as tapioca fences take root and bloom. Brick walls turn moss green. Pepper vines snake up electric poles. Wild creepers burst through laterite banks and spill across the flooded roads. Boats ply in the bazaars, and small fish appear in the puddles that fill the PWD potholes on the highways. It was raining when Rahel came back to Ayamimon. Okay. This is how it should go. While May in Rahel's hometown is hot and dry, June brings monsoon weather. And this means daily rainfall and sometimes downpours. In fact, it was raining when Rahel arrived. Now, that makes me absolutely hate extroverted intuition so much. Is it well written? Yeah. It's like the woman's good at constructing sentences and at pairing sentences with each other rhythmically so that it sounds like it's got a good smooth voice. But dear Lord, is she self-indulgent with the description. Nobody wants to read a page full of description of how things change when it goes from dry to wet. I mean, who's gonna read all of those words for why? We get the gist of it so much sooner than that person finishes telling it to us. This whole book, so far I've read 82 pages in, is like that. It's full of lots of extended meowings for no good reason and obscurity for no good reason. She's trying to tell a couple of mysteries and revealing certain hints about them as we're going along. But the combination of her kind of expositorily obscuring the things that's going on mystery-wise, plus her her storyline obscuring in these blocks of ridiculous description make it an incredibly dense book to get through, and incredibly easy to lose any sense of wait, what's going on here? Because everyone's also got a weird Indian name, so now that's fair. It's a book about Indians, but sometimes they have like an Indian name plus the Indian nickname. It's like, okay, I can't keep all these people straight, and I ended up talking to Jeffrey about it. I'm like, so, I keep a couple of names. I got a couple of names. There's Rahel, and there's her brother, and then I'll describe the other people in relation to Rahel, because I can't really remember their name. There's Baby Coco whatever, and there's Rahel, and, Rahel's brother and Rahel's mom, a mom, something like that. I don't know. The point is, this book is an example of what happens when extroverted intuitors like the smell of their farts too much. So, listen here, winner of the Boner Prize and New York Times bestseller, Arund Hattie Roy. Listen here. You may have fooled people by your bestseller. Probably fooled the New York Times. That's why they noted it, possibly. I don't know. You definitely fooled people of the Booker Prize Award. But I just schooled the living fuck out of you by showing how much better your book would be if you just replaced your whole first page with my one sentence. So, extroverted intuitors out there, don't do this. It's ugly, sickening, awful, terrible, bad, and evil. It's aesthetically those things, not morally. But yeah, things can be aesthetically evil. That's what aesthetic evil looks like. It's like, here, I'm going to make you, reader, sift through all this garbage. Eric, are you looking in the mirror right now as you're saying that? A little bit, yes. But I'm trying to fix that. I'm trying to get better at it. Right now, they're giving this person an award for failing to edit. So, no.